everyone. It's Jen from Oxijen Podcast, Navigating Life, breaking the chains of old habits, limiting beliefs, and that negative self-talk. I am here today with my friend, Gary Gillen. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jen. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Gary, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
So thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on the podcast. And my journey is split into probably kind of three big segments. The most important of those segments is the one that I'm working in right now, which is as a life and leadership and performance coach. And I've been doing that now formally for about 3 years or so. And when I say formally, that's when I took formal education to get myself certified in what it is I do. My previous career to that was in project management in a variety of industries and a variety of organizations doing a variety of different types and styles of projects. I also have been an academic for probably about 20 years or so, mostly teaching in project management, leadership management, communication skills and styles and such. And my very first career was a painter, and not a fancy painter, but just a house painter. I used to go around painting people's houses way back in the day. So I had a very varied career. And the reason I chose coaching recently, fairly recently anyway, in terms of my overall career, was that I started to really figure out what is it I like about my job. And at the time I was project managing. And what I liked about the job was truly the people. And I know sometimes that can be cliche, but it was really, helping people get out of their own way with a bit of a selfish undertone. And I don't mind saying that my selfish undertone was to get the project done, but to help people who were having a difficulty with the project to say, tell me what's going on, how does this impact you positively or negatively or in any way, and help me help you get through that. So as I started to explore coaching more, I started to realize I think that's what I've been doing. The caveat to that is when I started to do my coaching education, I started to realize, oh, that's not, I wasn't coaching at all. I was basically just telling people what to do with a smile on my face, So now that I know that I have more skills and tools and techniques to be able to genuinely coach people and help them grow, it's been very, very enlightening for me.
One of the things that I have loved about you is you are an energy coach, and that speaks to me so much and on a deeper level, because I am so into energy and know the importance of energy. But you also, I wanted to talk about awareness, because you and I both have this powerful message of really transformation happens from awareness. What would you say on awareness, and what is awareness? If people are like, well, I'm aware, what is awareness to you?
I think I typically would start to answer that question from a self-awareness perspective. And I used to, in my classrooms, virtual or otherwise, but mostly physically, when I was in the classroom before the pandemic, I had lots of opportunities to tell lots of stories, and awareness was something that I packaged under self-awareness. And it was really to emphasize to people, how self-aware are you? And how self-aware are everyone around you? And then I used to tell this story it's not kind of even true, maybe it is, but when you're waiting to get off the airplane, and you've been standing there, you're kind of not exactly at the front of the plane, so you take your time, you wait, and then this person gets literally out of the plane and then just stops, and then just decides, now is the time I'm going to lift up the handle in my case, and there's 174 people behind them that kind of do that. That do that, because they have no concept that anyone else has to be anywhere else. They say, this is what I need for me right now in this moment. And that self-aware concept, it's very limited. Let me say, maybe there's no self-awareness. So when you do that, from an awareness perspective, it's just being open to the fact that there's more going on than what's going on up here for you and physically for you. That other people might just have some stuff going on in their own life as well, being open and receptive to that, and then being able to navigate the winds of change that will naturally come by having that further level of awareness in there. So, just that higher level of clarity is probably almost a word that I would apportion, my interpretation.
I agree. For me, awareness is just really staying present,
Hmm.
being present in the words that I'm speaking, being present in how I'm carrying myself, and being present and aware of the thoughts that I'm having, the energy levels that I'm having, really fine tuning. I know for me, I was on autopilot for many years, right? Get up, I would go to the gym, work my 9 to 5, come home, do what I had to do, and then start the cycle. And you
Yeah.
get in this autopilot of life. It's like this circle. And for a lot of us, we're on this circle and we don't even know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then we fall into these negative patterns, negative thought patterns. And for me, it's having that awareness, like, oh, just what are you doing right now? What is around me? And having awareness is the ability then to make those changes that we want on our journey.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that brings the clarity that I was just talking about earlier, the willingness to be open to saying, is there another way to do this? Is this serving me now in the way that I thought it was in the beginning? And if not, why not? And is it okay to make a change and
I
then
love
making the
that.
change?
That right there is such a powerful message. Is there another way? Because we get stuck, and I say we, the collective we, get stuck in our head that this is the only way. But
Yeah.
that's so powerful. Asking that question, is there another way? Because there's always another way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's always an opportunity to make a new choice, a new change in your behavior and your pattern.
Yeah.
That, whew, that was good stuff. Let's talk about, so we have this awareness, but let's talk about if somebody's on their journey of changing. And you and I had talked earlier, and we were talking about weight loss or going to the gym, but there's this like, I want it now.
Yes.
And I know myself, I get caught in that, like we're in mastermind and I want my stuff done now, but that's
Yeah.
not how it works, right? So can you talk a little bit about the journey and what people can expect when they're making transformation or they're wanting change? And just, I always say just trust the journey, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on the journey and insight for our audience.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, certainly in the beginning, you have to be open to understanding why. Why
Mm,
you want to transform, why you want to make a change, why it's important for you, why it's important for today's version of you and future version of you. And if you truly grasp and really have cognizance of your why, everything else becomes easier because you're not fighting that internal battle where when you get challenged either by yourself or by someone else, that you have an opportunity then just to kind of to fold, to kind of go, actually, I don't even remember why I started this in the first place, So if you understand truly your why, then that would, if nothing else, it will give you that platform to be able to then have meaningful conversations to say, this is why it's important. I need to be fitter and healthier to look after my kids. I want to make sure I'm around for my grandkids. I want to make sure I can run that marathon for charity in memory of my dad. Like, whatever it is, the compelling reason to be able to do what it is you want to do gives you that platform to then say, okay, how do I do that? Now you could do Google searches, you can search online, you can use the assistance of generative AI or whatever it is you want to do. But ultimately, you need to get to a point where you're having an actual conversation with someone because
I have to pause you right there because you are hitting the key things, right? These are like, I love this. Number one, awareness, right?
yeah,
Having that awareness, which creates the clarity, having awareness of how you are now and how you want to be.
yeah,
And then the key that keeps you going is knowing your why.
yeah, definitely.
And I teach this to my clients, and Dean has taught this to us, the 7 layers of why. Like, why do you want the change? Ask yourself that 7 times because there's you peel the layers of life back on
Yeah,
that seventh one, and then it's like, oh, that's the reason why I'm
yeah,
doing it.
yeah, definitely.
What's your
Definitely.
why?
My why, it's actually fairly similar to one that I've heard before. I want more control over my life. and I want more control over my time. I'm very, very purposeful with my time, not to the nth degree, or the minute or the second each day we're doing this, that, but who I spend my time with, what I spend my time doing. It's all intention, it's all purposeful, and it's all with meaning, and I mean that even if I'm sitting having a beer and, watching a show at the same time, I'm very, very protective and purposeful of my time. When I was in corporate Canada for the longest time, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. And then I got to a spot where I thought, I wonder if there's something else that I could do that would actually be creative and meaningful for other people, because I get jazzed when I can literally help someone else or another group or another team or an organization or such. So then I got to a spot where I thought, right, okay, now how do I do that with the time that I have available? Quite difficult, when you have a full-time job and a career and family responsibilities and your own personal, passions and desires and such. So it got to a spot where I thought I need more control over my time, and I need the space to be able to do not just a good job, which I think I was probably doing before, but to really do a great job, to absorb the lessons, to be more purposeful, meaningful, and aware, back to what we were talking about earlier, of who's doing what's the great work that's happening out there, what are the best in the business doing, where are the common challenges, and giving yourself that mental capacity to be able to piece things together to say, I think I'm onto something here.
I love that, because you're in your own share, you're showing the journey, right? You ask that question, what
Yeah,
else is there for me? You
yeah,
had your compelling why, you want more time, you want to make more impact. And
yeah,
so, and I too, my time is very precious to me, and I am the same as you. How I spend my time, I value my time, and I want the freedom of my time so I can have the impact and make the connections and be of service. And my other compelling why has always been my nieces and nephews, especially my nephew who's now in college. I push my envelope all the time with him in my minds of showing I want to be the person that he sees, like, oh, if I take that risk, if I do the things, if I work hard, this is what life has for me. And
yeah,
so I love that. So we talked about some of my top things: awareness, knowing your why, which creates clarity. And then let's wrap it up and talk a little bit about the journey, because I'm sure for you, and I know for me, I didn't wake up and one day just like had created my company. It took some time, and I'm 7 years in my business, and I'm making a major shift of my company this year. So that's another, we're talking year number 8 going in. It
yeah.
takes time. So what was your journey like?
Exactly that, Jen. Exactly as you said, it takes time, and I say that as a recovering impatient person. I mean, we live in a culture right now where you can almost have everything kind of instant. But when you're talking about genuine, deep, meaningful personal growth, the analogy, I mean, there's tons of analogies out there, but there are very few things in the world that are genuinely meaningful, that you would have instantaneous results from anything. The example we chatted about just before we came on air was, you go to the gym for the first time in 5 years, and you either come home injured, or you come home having not really worked that hard and saying, I tried, it didn't work, it's just not for me.
Not for me.
I'm going to have to try and figure something else out. And it's the same for personal growth. It's the same for, having awareness and clarity and purpose and vision, and, and a plan of putting that together. And the journey, I mean, the thing I would basically offer up here in terms of the journey is, don't concentrate on the amount of time that it's going to take, because some people will come, and the two things that people who are not, quite well averse to coaching and the coaching framework and the coaching process will talk about, how long is it going to take and how much is it going to cost? And I'm
Yes.
saying, well, let's talk about the cost at some other point. We can like, what do you think is a reasonable amount of time to make the meaningful change that you want? And by the way, at the time, they don't truly know what the meaningful change is. They'll have a theme. I want to be better at this. I want to have this come down or be better or greater. So then it's a matter of saying, everyone's different.
Mhm.
Everyone's journey is different. You are 100% in control of this going forward.
Uh,
So that's not to say that you can supercharge it and you can go any quicker than you need to go to be able to absorb the lessons, to gain the growth, to gain the clarity, move forward and practice into your new self. But it's an investment of time, and good, meaningful, genuine change doesn't happen overnight. And some people are just kind of like, cool. So how long?
yeah,
And as long as, I mean, it's a journey you're on. It's not a destination.
it's not. And I always use, people will tell me, I emphasize eating healthy. And they're like, Jen, it's so expensive. Healthy food is so expensive. And here's what I always say: you either pay for it up front in your foods, or you're paying for it in the back end on all the medicine you're taking.
Yeah.
And I feel like personal growth is the same thing. You're going to pay for the investment, investing in that coach to help you along the way, or you're going to pay the price of staying stuck where you are physically and mentally. And for me, that's always the mental anguish of disappointment in myself is more painful than anything else.
Yeah. And I think most people are the same. I mean, the self-talk that we say
Oh,
to ourselves, you wouldn't, for the most part, you wouldn't say that to anyone in your life,
no.
even your mortal enemy, if you have such a thing, and it's one of these, why would you want to do that to yourself? And even back to the example of the cost of it, you are going to pay at some point. I was having a bit of a jocular conversation with a good friend of mine some time ago, and he says, How much? How much is it? How much is it? So I said a number, and he's like, What? Like that's how much it costs. And that's what you get. So the insults are flying, and it is a bit jokey, but there's a theme to that. And I said, if you don't think you're worth it, then
Mm,
there's not a lot I can do to convince you're worth that. If I look at what you're wearing right now, you've invested that money on yourself,
right.
physically on yourself by the nice clothing that you're wearing. If you don't feel that you're valuable enough to invest that in yourself, then it's probably not the right time for you. But I'm ready, willing, and available whenever you think it is the right time. So there's a
Yeah.
there's an educational component, to try and just have that little spark that makes them, take note. And I love your analogy of saying you're going to pay for it at some point. One point feels a wee bit, it kind of grates you a little bit, but it's better than the alternative. And let me tell you what that is.
Oh, it is. So if we were to, I love this conversation. I always like talking to you because it's like we speak the same language, right?
Yeah.
As a recap for the audience, on your journey of transformation, a few things to be aware of. Number one is awareness, just having awareness of actually where you are in life, what you're doing, where you want to go. And
Yeah.
then number two, that also creates clarity and it gives you directions, also known as goals.
Yeah.
And then you're compelling why. Why do you want this change? That's really important. And
Yeah.
also to be patient on your journey.
Definitely.
Gary, thank you so much for this conversation today. I'm sure everyone is going to love it as much as I did.
I hope so. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's great to chat to you again, Jen.